So, for those who are interested, this is a quick tour of my main guitar, which is a 1980 Les Paul Firebrand. Those of you who know the Firebrand know that it normally comes in a brown, speckly kind of colour. I had this resprayed in the mid-80s, I guess. I bought it on the 3rd of August 1981. Bizarrely, I still have the original receipt. I got it cheap because there's a ding in it which is now being filled. So I got it for the sum of £260, which if you translate that to today's money is about £1,000, which doesn't make it that cheap really, even though it had a ding. Anyway, it's my main guitar, I've been quite happy with it. So, original tuning heads, I've had it refretted only once with 6105 frets, which are tall frets to make it easier to bend, particularly because I used to use 11s gauge strings, so I needed all the help I could get. The back of the neck, I occasionally rub with Scotch-Brite to take the gloss off, which I found, somebody advised me to do this once, and it sounded very drastic, but it actually makes the neck much more playable. You can slide from one position to your other without your thumb getting kind of hung up on the sticky lacquer. I have replaced the strap buttons with locking strap buttons because my previous guitar, which was a Les Paul copy, met its end when I slung the guitar on my shoulder. It came off the strap and crashed on the floor and broke the neck. So I didn't want that to happen on this guitar. I've changed the pickups. Now, if you watch, there are various videos about Les Paul Firebrand, and one of the things they all say is how great the pickups were and how you oughtn't to change them. Well, I'm afraid I didn't know that. So as a 20-something year old, in the quest for better sound, I changed the bridge pickup in the mid-80s probably, to, I think what it is, it's definitely a Seymour Duncan, and I think it is a Texas Special. I know it had some kind of ZZ Top connection. I think it's a Texas Special. The neck pickup I changed much more recently to a Seymour Duncan jazz pickup. And I must say that's been a revelation. I didn't really use the neck pickup much before, but now it's great. It's really clean and clear for clean sounds. It's brilliant, so I've been very pleased with that. The bridge I've also changed. I used to get a lot of problems with the D string snapping, probably because I bent it and it wore away over the bridge saddles. So I've changed the bridge to a roller bridge, which is obviously intended to be used with guitars with a tremolo. But I've found it's been great. It's really reduced the number of string breakages I've had. It doesn't really seem to affect the tone badly at all. Now when we come to the electronics, one of the things to notice is that the Firebrand has the selector switch down here rather than up here that you would normally expect it to be. I actually prefer it in that position, but one of the consequences of that is that the cavity is bigger than the normal Les Paul trapezoid kind of cavity. It's a big semicircle, so it gives you more options to tinker with the electronics. So I've rewired the whole setup, changed the pots probably 2 or 3 times during the life of the guitar. One revelation I've found is that the last time I rewired it, I went for the vintage style or 1950s style wiring pattern, and which puts the tone and the volume pots in a slightly different configuration to the modern way. And because somebody had told me that it sounds better, and I was very sceptical about whether it would actually sound better, but sure enough, it really made a difference, the vintage wiring. So that's a recommendation. I also put orange drop capacitors in the tone control when I did that, which for me is really a complete waste of time because I always have the tone controls full up, so I don't know why I really bothered doing that. It just seemed nice to know that they were in there. So now a couple of switches. Again, I put these switches in many years ago, probably in the 80s. This one is fairly standard. It's a coil splitter, so it splits the coils on both pickups simultaneously. And I use that quite a lot if I'm playing anything that really should be played on a Stratocaster, if anything funky or reggae or anything like that we play in the band. We play quite a wide variety of stuff. I tend to use it probably in the middle position, both pickups and coil split. But this switch here, this is a real good idea, even though I say it myself, it's my idea, but it seems to be a good one. So I originally drilled a hole there for a preamp. I don't know if people remember, it was a bit of a phase really when guitars were starting to be, active guitars were the thing. So you could buy a little electronic circuit which acted as a preamp in the guitar, put a 9-volt battery in the cavity, and you could switch the preamp on. Now, I went off that idea. It seemed nonsense, of course. Nowadays, if you do have a boost, you have it on a foot switch. So why would you do that? So I had a hole looking for a reason to exist. And what I thought was, wouldn't it be great if you had something that completely overrode whatever tone setting you had? So supposing that you've got it in, middle pickups and coil split and the volume's backed off and maybe the tone adjusted, but then you want to go to a solo. I don't know about you, but when I go to a solo, what I almost always want is bridge pickup full bore. So what would you do? You'd have to sort of adjust all the tones and volumes to do that and switch the switches. But the idea of this switch is that it just changes from whatever pattern you've got, whatever setup you've got, it changes to bridge position, full blast. And that works really well. You go to a solo, flip the switch, bang, everything's loud and full. Strangely, I found if I just connected the pickup to the output jack, it was a very brash sound. So I actually wired in parallel a 500 ohm resistor, just a normal resistor, to mimic the effect of the pickup being across the volume pot at full volume. And that tamed it a bit. So it's still loud and in your face, but it's not got that brash edge. So that's the guitar. I must say I bought it. I'm a Les Paul guy. I bought my copy, it was a Les Paul. And then when I saw this guitar with the damage in, I thought, oh gosh, that's an opportunity, I had to have it. Particularly, I like Les Pauls because the undertones, John and Damien O'Neill used Les Pauls. And also I was into punk rock. Steve Jones in the Sex Pistols used one. And famously, Stinky Turner from Cockney Rejects in the song I Want to Be a Star sings, when I'm a star, I'm going to have 20 new Gibsons. So clearly, Gibson guitar was the punk rock guitar of choice, which is strange really in a way because it's such a conservative instrument. You'd think that punk rock would be anything other than a Gibson Les Paul. But anyway, that's the way things go. And for me, it's funny really because this is definitely my guitar. I look at beautiful guitars in guitar shops and Strats. So Strats, I've got nothing against Strats. Some of my favourite guitar players play Strats, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, David Gilmour, fantastic. But just somehow it's not for me. And I think it's like, you can look at beautiful women, you can look at Mia Jama and think, oh gosh, she's fantastic. But actually, when it comes down to it, I wouldn't be able to handle her and I wouldn't do her justice and I'd be worried that she was going to leave me all the time. So what I need is the girl next door, maybe less glamorous, but sticks with you.